Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Justin. I am a doctoral candidate and I am overwhelmed. It's no secret that graduate school is super busy and stressful, which is why today I want to talk about how to stay organized with the weekly review. Grad school can be chaotic in the best of circumstances, and then with COVID and everything else that happened last year, things got even more hectic, which is why that I'm really glad that near the end of 2019, I made the New Year's resolution of developing a system in order to keep myself more organized. And that system is our topic today, the weekly review. I'll be giving a quick overview. I'll talk about the weekly review and its two parts. And finally, I'll give you a few tips to help you stick to the weekly review and stay productive. So why do a weekly review? One of the most important things I've learned in nearly a decade of post-secondary education is the importance of keeping a schedule. If you ever worked a part-time job, you've probably had a boss, a manager, or a supervisor whose entire job was to keep track of the tasks that need to be done and to manage a team of employees. However, as a graduate student, you don't really have a boss that tells you what needs to get done day to day. You might start off with your PI giving a heavy amount of oversight, but as you progress, you'll become more and more independent, you'll plan and run your own experiments, and essentially you'll be your own boss. So if other jobs have a boss whose entire job it is to manage a team and a team's goals, doesn't it make sense, as the boss of your own academic career, to set aside some time each week in order to manage yourself? And as I said before, one of the tools I use to keep myself organized is the weekly review. There are two parts to the weekly review, the Friday reflection and Monday planning. Friday reflection is done at the end of the week. The main goal here is to review what you've done and see what you still have to do. Here's my checklist on what to reflect on. Number 1, review your completed tasks. This one is pretty straightforward, just make a list of everything you've done this week. This includes both the things that you've completed this week and the things that you've worked on but still haven't quite finished yet. Since you should be logging everything you do in your lab notebook, this should be a fairly straightforward task. Number 2, what worked? By this, of course, I mean things like what experiments did you do that were successful, but it also means did you try any new tricks or strategies that helped you accomplish your tasks? Maybe a new piece of software or study method, even something like a conflict resolution strategy. If you tried something and it worked, make a note of it so you can use similar strategies in the future. Number 3, what didn't work? Similarly, you need to think about what didn't work. If you tried something and it didn't turn out, that's okay. Make a note of it and maybe think about why it didn't work and how you can improve next time. Number 4, what are your mid and long-term objectives? These are the big things that you're working towards within the next couple of months. Even though this section shouldn't change very often, I find it helpful to review my ongoing projects. These can be things like a paper or a report you're working on, or maybe an exam you're studying for. And number 5, what are your objectives for next week? Think about what you have left to do to accomplish your mid and long-term goals, and decide which steps you're going to do in the upcoming week in order to accomplish them. Part 2 of the weekly review is Monday planning, which should be done before the start of your next work week. Start off by looking over your Friday reflections and reviewing what you accomplished last week and what worked. This is a great reminder of your progress and a small boost of inspiration to kick off your work week. Next, review things you are having trouble with. Is there anything you can do in the upcoming week to help address these issues? After that, remind yourself of your mid to long-term objectives. What can you do this week to help yourself move closer to accomplishing those goals? And finally, remind yourself of the goals for this week. At the end of it all, you should have a tidy to-do list for your upcoming week. I know it seems a bit odd to have Friday reflections separate from Monday planning, especially when the majority of Monday planning is just reading over what you wrote in your Friday reflections. But this is actually by design. The idea is to do Friday planning right at the end of the work week when everything is fresh in your mind, and then plan your week right before you start. And in between, you can actually relax. I really like the review because it symbolically bookends your work week, and it takes away the added need of keeping running to-do lists in your head, so your downtime on the weekend can actually be restful. When you start back up on Monday, not only are you prepared with a to-do list, you're actually well rested enough to accomplish your tasks. Now, of course, this system only works as long as you use it. So here are a few tips to make sure your weekly review is a success. Tip number 1, make it a habit. Probably the best way to make sure you stick to your weekly review is to, you guessed it, schedule it into your weekly routine. For me, this means Friday reflections at the end of the work week on Friday, right before I head home for the weekend, and then Monday plannings on Sunday afternoon. I find that doing my Monday planning the day before I actually start working is super helpful. Not only am I ready to start my Monday with a plan, I don't get caught off guard by showing up to work and forgetting something I needed at home. This is more part of a daily habits thing, which I'll talk about in another video, But the last part of my Monday planning is actually to prepare all the stuff I need to bring to work the next day. But again, daily habits are another video, so if you're interested, make sure you subscribe so you get the notification when I put that video out. Tip number 2 is to make it fun. Another big tip to help you stick to your weekly review is to make it as enjoyable as possible. And that means different things for different people. Maybe it means getting a nice notebook and some colored pens. Maybe it means meeting up with your lab mates and doing it together as a group. For me, it means making a cup of fancy coffee and sitting down on Sunday afternoon to plan on my week. I know sometimes these tasks can be grueling and it can be really tempting to just skip it. But if you can turn it into something that you look forward to, you're much more likely to stick with good habits that will keep you productive. In the same vein, tip number 3 is make it easy. One of the biggest barriers to doing something productive is just getting started, which is why I like to do everything in my power to just reduce that activation energy so I can hop right into it and get the ball going. I have my weekly review template all set up for me in Notion, which is this great productivity app. I've set up my weekly review page so it's all nice and pretty, and all I have to do is click this button and my next entry for the weekly review is all set up for me. It also syncs to the mobile app, so I have the choice of doing it at my desk or while I sit on the couch using my phone. And finally, tip number 4, make it yours. This is the system that worked for me, but you can and absolutely should change it around to suit your needs. Maybe you're in charge of ordering reagents and that needs to be part of your weekly routine. Maybe you're teaching during your graduate degree, so you need to add lesson planning to your weekly schedule. Maybe you're supervising a whole bunch of students, so not only do you need to keep track of your tasks, you need to keep track of theirs. Again, what I've shown here is what works for me and what I think is a solid starting point for you to develop your own weekly review system. The weekly review is an incredible system to help you stay on task during your graduate degree. Having all your tasks for the week laid out in front of you helps you prioritize what needs to get done first, and also important, when you can stop, go home, recuperate, and come back full force the next day. It can take a little bit of time to set up and get in the habit of doing it, but once you've done it a few times, it's actually really quick. It usually takes me about half an hour to do the Friday reflections, and then 15 to 20 minutes to do my Monday planning. So you'll be spending less than an hour each week doing the weekly review, and I can guarantee that not only will you be getting that hour back in increased productivity, you'll be less stressed doing it. Thank you so much for watching. If you found the video helpful, please give it a like. If you enjoyed it and want to see more, please consider subscribing and ringing the notification bell, and I will see you in the next one.